Tuesday morning. Here we are, 3 weeks into the new year, since today's the 21st, and it's been an interesting start to the new year, and hopefully everything is going well for all of you. Every new year, some people start fast, some start slow, but my wish for you is that this year is going to be your best year ever. So let's get excited about that, and we're gonna have fun today, because I'm, as I said in my recap, behind the brand. This is an opportunity to learn a little bit more about me, because when I talk about brand, and brands are often the first thing you think of when you think of a brand is going to be a name. And what do you think about that name? So if you think Coke, if you think Ford, if you think Subaru, if you think any of these products, it's a brand. And then what do you think about the brand, and what got that brand to where it is? So all of that is in those thoughts. And when I looked at putting today together, it's like my sis CJ and I have been talking brands. We talked it last weekend in our live stream on her TV show Sunday night. Branding was part of that conversation. And when I think about this, and I'm going to put a video out probably later today on how my name is my brand, or my brand is my name. I mean, go whichever way you want. You want your brand to be something that people know, like, and trust. That, and when they know, they like, and they trust that brand, that name, that's a positive. That helps you grow. So before I get into everything, I want to go through my announcements, because I have important people that I like to highlight. And I want to start off with the importance of checking in on those around you. Think about people that you know who are struggling, who have gone through something, whether it was last week, last month, last year. It can be a struggle if you're going through medical, if you're going through physical, marital, family, all these different types of issues. They can really knock you down at that beginning point. Or you know somebody, and you remember what it was like when it first happened to them, when they were first going through it. And then, over time, they start smiling, and you just kind of look at them and you see them smiling, and you think, oh, they're okay, they're fine. But that's not always the case, because some of these things that we go through, it takes time to get over. If you have a serious medical issue, let's say that you went through cancer, and yeah, maybe you finished that battle, you won that battle. That doesn't mean that the struggle's not there, that the mental health issues aren't there, that you're not struggling behind that smile. Or if you have a stroke, or if you're going through an ugly divorce, or you've got a child who's got medical problems, and so many other things. I mean, all these things that go through our life. How do you know that people are doing okay? Are you going to say that, oh, they're smiling, so they're good? Check on them, see how they're doing, and be meaningful when you ask how they're doing. And then, in terms of my sponsors, my dear sister, dear sister, Dr. Constance Leyland with Level Up Academy. I absolutely love her. She's my bestie. We do a whole lot together, but she does a whole lot more. She's your publicity queen. If you are looking if you're looking for a press release, if you're looking to get your name out there, she has it in so many different ways. Here's a list of where she can put press releases. She has that ability to find premium magazines, and often at a discount. These are those magazines that you have to pay to get into. Yet she can find a discount and make it easier on the pocketbook for you to get your message out there. So if you've got something that you are trying to get the world to know, you want the world to see your new product, your ideas, your company, talk with CJ. Get a hold of DM Dr. Constance Leyland. There's the QR code there. Scan that QR code, touch base with her, see how she can help you level up. And she also does education. We're doing anthologies. We're doing publishing. So many things. Check her out and see all the stuff. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about it towards the end of the show too, of some of the things that she does and I do together, because it's part of my own offerings as this is where the brand is. And then collaboration over competition. CJ talks all the time. I talk it right beside her. Here's a group that does it. The Hounds of Business community. Here's a group that collaboration is more important than competition. You want to be with people that you can talk with, that you can work with, that you don't feel like every conversation has to be competition, butting heads. The Hounds of Business is here to help people grow. We talk to Mike Ashebrainer. He's the leader of the pack. He's also one of CJ and Danielle and my sisters. So Mike is great. He knows how to connect people, to communicate. Talk with him, get more info on the Hounds, because this is a group that really is focused on collaboration over competition, working together. Even if you're doing something that's the same or similar as someone else, that may actually be a perfect collaboration, because you don't have the same audience. You don't engage the same way. We have 8 billion people in this world. No one person can cater to 8 billion. So work with others, because when you collaborate, you also learn. This is that important aspect of continual learning. So check them out. Mike Ashebrainer, the Hounds of Business community. And they have a show every Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. Or if you want Mikey's time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Every Wednesday, check them out on LinkedIn and YouTube. And my sister CJ, she's got TV on YouTube as well. Speaking of, this was our latest anthology, Against the Grain, Finding Belonging in a World of Resistance. I was the one that was leading on this one. We have amazing stories in this, and everything that we make from this anthology, it goes to confronting domestic violence. We believe in giving back to our communities. All four, we were blessed last year. All four of our anthologies were #1 international bestsellers. So when I look at this, those bestsellers, our first volume last year, it was Beyond Boundaries, Thriving in Life's Gray Zone. It became a #1 international bestseller, and we gave back CJ gave back to Madagascar, planting trees. The next one was Moving Beyond Boxes. That one we focused on, again, #1 international bestseller, and we donated trees to Honduras. The third one, Rebel with a Cause, a #1 international bestseller. And that one, those donations for that, and CJ created a workbook to go with it. The proceeds from those are going to mental health advocacies. So we give back. And the one that's open now, The Chronicles of Scattered Pages. Now, this anthology is really a blast, because what we're going to do with this one is there's no theme. All these other anthologies and all the ones you see out there, they have a theme. You're supposed to write on a specific topic. Well, here's your chance to write on what you want, 1,000 to 2,000 words, and you've got CJ and I there to walk you through the whole process. We want to make it easier for you. We want to help you out. Make the process of writing as easy as possible so that you get your best story out there. And by March, you're going to be a published author if this is your first time. And we've worked with so many first-time authors. You want names? Mike Ashebrainer's one of them. Reach out to anybody that's been our books. Last year we did 72 different stories within our anthologies. So this year we're starting off with Chronicles of Scattered Pages, stories from everywhere. Write what you want. And CJ is doing something for academics. So if you have a master's, a DBA, or a PhD in any discipline, here's an academic publication. And the beauty about this is, again, you're working with CJ, I'll be there to help with anything as well. It's going to have a summit. So you're going to have your own research. It's going to be a summit. It's not more than 3,000 words for these. So we got 1,000 to 2,000 words for Scattered Pages, 3,000 words max for this summit academic book. And when it's published, it will be published in 6 different languages, which means it's 6 books in one. Now, where do you get to go and write a book, be published, and you're 6 books in one? So check it out, scan the QR code. With any questions, reach out to CJ. She can give you more information on it, because look at this. It's going to be published in May. It's going to be a lot of fun with this one. So reach out. And yes, this one, she does have topics. You have to pick in them, but CJ is a great person to talk to get into it. And then I just want to put this up because it's important when CJ and I talk with people, as we look at people, the people in our circles, the people who are closest to us. These are the ones who are soul-hearted. A lot of people talk about being heart-centered. This takes it one step further. This is really who you are at your soul. You're soul-hearted. You really have that caring for people to lift others up, and that's what we want to do. And this is me. What can I say? Today is going to be a lot of fun because I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I've done in the past. But first, I want to see who's here. And look at that. Michelle is the first one up. I love this. Sending my love out to you, Michelle, because I know there's a lot going on. I love Michelle. Sis, Dr. New, great to see you here. And yes, everything with Level Up, everything with Mike and the Hounds. Welcome, Ben. And it's great to see you here. And again, I talk about new authors with us. Benjamin was on the most recent anthology, which, Against the Grain, Finding Belonging in a World of Resistance. This is it. In fact, just real quick, there's all 4 of our anthologies from last year. And yeah, I absolutely love my sis, Dr. Leyland. Lisa, now if you want to get an idea about menopause, and men go through it too, so there's andropause, Lisa is the person to talk to. Check her out. And there's our sister, Mike. Love it. And he's talking about having been in the book, and he was in the last book with Ben as well. So it was a wonderful time. And so, yeah, it's great to see all of you here. We're going to talk brand, behind the brand, my brand. This is a chance for me to give you a little bit more information about where I come from, because believe it or not, and I'll just say it that way, I turned 60 this year. I will be 60 in just a couple months. And I don't feel like it. It doesn't feel like I've hit 6 decades at this point, but it's been an amazing year. And when I look back over it, where I started, how I got to here, because again, every brand, you've got where they started and where they are now, how they got here. And for me, there's education. So I have 3 different degrees through Portland State University. I have a master's, I have a bachelor's and Science of History, a Master of Arts in History, and my focus in history was U.S. diplomatic history. I love primary sources, so I love that academic aspect. And there's something about it when you look at primary sources to see what people really thought. And my focus, my thesis was the U.S., the Nordic countries, and the birth of NATO. So what was it like to have the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War? How did it start? And the importance of the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Iceland, the Nordic countries. Which ones were in NATO, which ones stayed out of NATO, the reasoning why, but the importance of those countries, and especially Norway, to the creation of NATO. So it was a lot of fun creating that one. I also have a Master of International Management. So think of it as a global MBA. It's a business degree. And it's a lot of fun when you can sit there and look at the business world. You can look at how to help people at home and abroad. And it's a lot of fun doing that because you get to go in and help people and organizations grow. I was a U.S. Army officer in the Oregon National Guard. So in my time in service, it was a very cross-functional unit. I had some combat platoons. I had some support platoons. It was a very diverse cross-functional unit that I had when I commanded a troop. Being an officer, I've done HR. I was a personnel officer, the S1, which is like the director of HR for a large company. My units had 300 to 400 soldiers in them. And I'm responsible for everything that has to do with the HR of that military unit. So when we think about our past, when you think about what you have gone through, yeah, my title was S1, but that's a transferable skill into HR. And to be able to say, yes, I've been a director of the HR for an organization. Think about your past. Think about what you've done, whether you've only been in the workforce for 3 years, 15 years, 30, however many. You have skills that you just think about how you can transfer them to what you want to do. Think about how that in the past matches things that you want to do now. So for me, it's important to make sure that I note the HR, the leadership, working with cross-functional teams. This is all transferable into things that we can do now, and into speaking, and into consulting with organizations. I was in construction. I was a construction manager. I managed concrete tilt-up buildings. I did everything. It was a smaller business. I did everything as a general contractor, from negotiation with owners to creating the estimates, doing initial designs, securing contracts with the owners, negotiating and bidding out the projects, getting the construction team together, and putting that project together from the very beginning, even through the permit process, through completion, through the punch list, through any change orders. And oftentimes whenever these owners that I worked with wanted to do more construction, they would come back to me and say, hey, I want to do a tenant improvement. I want to do another building. I want to do an addition. I did that for 20 years. And I did it at the same time as being an Army officer. So there's a lot of things that we do at the same time. And again, construction, cross-functional teams. It's leadership. It's managing different folks. It's contract negotiations. There's so many things. It's it's consulting in many ways because you are consulting with clients, and in many ways you have to teach them the process, and you have to create know, like, and trust in you and your brand. So again, this is all part of branding. This is all part of that growth. How do you know, like, and trust? How do you create that with people? You have to have that rapport with them. Build a build a team, build a confidence, and then find the right people to work with to make that project the best it can be. I mean, whether you're doing construction or you're doing a computer, maybe you're working in SaaS, or you're a tech company and you're doing different tech projects for creating programs for clients. I've dealt with Salesforce. That was another place I worked, was in energy efficiency. I was a program manager. I managed programs that were $20 to $30 million a year. It was 5 programs across 5 states in the Western US. I worked for a nonprofit, so that gives me nonprofit experience besides my for-profit experience. It was nonprofit. It was a third party that was managing the program for a utility. So in this case, the utility was Pacificor. So it's a big utility with Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, parts of California, and parts of Washington. The only state that Pacificor is in that I didn't have was Oregon, because that's done by a different company. Again, this is managing a cross-functional team. Construction's part of it because we're creating measures. Think about it. How often have you seen your utility will say, hey, if you buy the right refrigerator, you'll get a rebate. If you insulate your home, you get a rebate. If you do something with windows, all these different things. And then they say it's a rebate or an incentive. They have money set aside for incentives for people to be more energy efficient. That was the kind of program that I was running across 5 states. I was creating 5 different monthly reports showing how well we did for each one of those states. It was creating the tariffs. The tariff is actually getting into the details of creating an option, like if it's refrigerators. It's like, here's a refrigerator, doing all the calculations and saying, okay, if you buy this type of refrigerator, it will save this much money, this much energy, and the value of it is X dollars. So we can pay consumers X dollars. If the measure is insulation, if the measure has to do with HVAC, because we had those too, then I've got teams that are doing those calculations saying, here's the measure, here's the calculations, and we can do this measure. It will save this much energy, and we can pay the consumer this much if they give us proof that they did it. So it's like, give us the receipt, and then we will give you the incentive. So that means I had a call center that was under me that I worked with. I had marketing. I had HR. I had my own core team for the measure. And then there were other teams around. I had a group that was focused on construction and going out to the field, going to stores to make sure that these measures, it's like marketing. You want your CFLs, those lights, to be on an end cap in Costco or Sam's Club. You want it to be where everybody will see it, not buried down the aisles. So it's learning all these different aspects. Again, how does that transfer into other things that you can do now? Think about your own history, what you've done, what you've learned, and how you can use that going forward in what you want to do. And then I've also done sustainability consulting. I've done I worked with an organization to help them actually figure out the carbon footprint of a concrete building, a warehouse that they had just completed, but they wanted to figure out, okay, how much carbon would we save on the construction of this $9 million building if we found suppliers that had a lower footprint than what we used, or did we use the best footprint? So in this case, I learned how to use ArcGIS for this. I was involved with doing the data and helping put the report together that says, okay, we now have these areas. It was concrete, it was dirt, it was asphalt, roofing, the roof system, the miscellaneous steel, all these different aspects, the asphalt paving, and being able to say, here's where it came from, and plug it into a system that somebody had designed to identify the carbon footprint of that stuff. Now, the amazing thing is, this particular report gives an idea of something that is really, at that time, it was rampant in construction, and that's the good old boy system, where you work with the same people all the time because you've got that rapport with them. But this was a project that was located in one city, and it was a suburb of Portland. It was out to the east near the entry of the Columbia Gorge. The concrete trucks were coming from basically downtown Portland, and they were driving about 20 miles from where the concrete was mixed to where the site was. And there were like 900 loads of concrete that were delivered to that site. That's like driving a cement truck from Portland to New York City and back 3.5 times. That's a huge carbon footprint. When there was another concrete company, that was within 2 miles of the site, had they done this project, it would have cost $16,000 more. The carbon footprint would have been cut in half because you're no longer driving the truck so far. And that's really where a lot of that footprint came from, was driving a concrete truck 20 miles each way. So looking at these different aspects, I've done work for and they're in Portland too, and I just lost the name. Mercy Corps. Because Mercy Corps, they asked a team of us when I was finishing my master's degree in business to do a project on what would it be to help farmers in India to do basically sustainable farming for tea, and farmers in Nepal for cardamom. So we did that. We looked at both of them, we put things together, and we gave them an idea. It's like, it's not really worth trying to work with the farmers in Nepal, but in India, we showed them that they're already doing it, and we gave them ideas on how to basically help those farmers become certified for organic. And the proposal that we gave them, that's what they ran with. They started implementing it. So it's always amazing when you can see something you were working on be implemented. Another sustainable project, and it had a business focus, was the Iroquois Nationals lacrosse team. If you're not familiar with lacrosse, it's a sport. The Iroquois, basically the Quadanasi, are an originator of it, and I mean they're one of the best teams in the world in lacrosse, but they have difficulties being able to get into tournaments because they are a Native American nation. So we gave them We gave them marketing ideas, and we gave them a business plan. And we formulated that business plan on the Green Bay Packers, where the community has ownership of the team, has ownership of making that team great. And it turns out I have a copy of a Boston Globe article where that's exactly what they were doing. After we gave them that report, they were looking to implement just that. So here's business consulting. And it's so much fun to be able to help an organization and watch them really fly and take those steps that you recommend and move to the next level, as dear CJ would say, to level up. And yeah, Mikey, is like I absolutely love my dear sister CJ. So all of this has led to where I'm at now. All of this construction, U.S. Army officer, having a master's in history, a master's in international management, a business degree, working on an energy efficiency program that had a huge group of people and was cross-functional. And in the Army, when I had a cavalry troop, it was 150 soldiers that were under me. That's what I had. And we had to work together to create all kinds of stuff. To do every mission that we had, that's what we were doing. And so to work with them, to have officers with me, that we built up this team, and to do our missions, to do gunnery, to train soldiers in these diverse aspects. It's not just going to the rifle range like you have to do every year. It's not just doing a PT test. It's working with all these different they call them MOSs. They're skills. There's specific skill sets. So you've got a mess section, the cooks. You've got supply. You've got a maintenance section. So these are the ones that are keeping all the vehicles, whether it's a tracked vehicle or a wheeled vehicle, keeping them running. And because we had some tracked vehicles, that means we had this big, it was called an M88, but it's like a tow truck. It's like a tow truck, a tow tank, if you will. So there was that. That was fun. And then the communications, because you got to be able to communicate with everybody. So all these different aspects, all of these have to work together in a cohesive unit to get the mission accomplished. All of this. And at the same time, through that whole period of time, I'm going through my own, just trying to be me. When it came to the pandemic, and when it came to over the past decade, I've been doing various consulting. I've helped with some legal work. I've taught I taught AP US history to students in China, of which some of them passed that AP history exam, US history. It's not something that they are taught, but a lot of those students, they want to learn it, they want to know it, and they want to pass the AP because they want to come to the States and go to university. So this was their opportunity to learn, and I was able to help them. And for some of them, yes, all of them, English is their second language. So there's aspects of it, it's difficult, and it can be hard to pass this exam. An AP, advanced placement exam for high school students, it's like getting college credit. So it's a big deal. And when I look back at who I had, I felt like they could all pass the exam. But when you get into the room and you take that test and you have to write essays and stuff, and when the rubber hits the road, there's nothing I can do at that point. It's all up to them and how they go, and that they never know what the question's going to be. But I did have students that passed that exam, and it was beautiful. I loved it. That to see the excitement, and even those that didn't pass, they were really actually excited because they went in and they did their best, and that's all you can ask. You do your best. Then I've written press releases for international renewable energy companies. So and so I can actually talk. Again, this all adds to things that I've done. That part of my experience, part of what I bring to the table. I was writing. They were doing solar farms. They were doing wind farms. They were doing offshore wind farms. So now I have some ideas of from writing these press releases, and I wrote like about 3 dozen of them for this one company across the board. Some of them were mixtures of solar and wind power. They were in Vietnam. They were Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, in I believe Burma or Malaysia. I think Malaysia, and I think there was even one article that I wrote for them where it was for a company, an African country that they did work in. So they were doing work in emerging markets, emerging countries, and helping those countries to get green, energy efficient power, renewable energy to help offset the rising costs of energy in those countries so that people would have the light. Think about it. When you're in another country, it's and if they don't have the technology, it can be hard to have light. And if you don't have light, it's hard to study at night. It's hard to it's hard to basically do anything if you have to go by candlelight, if you have to go by firelight just to see. That's not always the best for reading, for studying. And then for a lot of places, the only way they might get education is online. So you need that internet access. You need that power for the computer to be able to do just that, to watch and be active on learning online. So a lot of that is what they were working on, is providing that power, talking about how different countries had different tariffs, different caps. Again, there's those tariffs again. There's looking at the measures, looking at the value. What is the value of that renewable energy compared to business as usual? How is it saving money? How is it making life better for people? So those are things that you want to keep in mind, and that's all part of my background. That's why I have uh, I have so much, and sometimes it's hard to sit back and this is why I got to where I am now. This is why I talk about move beyond boxes and shine. Why I talk about from boxes to butterflies. So many people will tell you to niche down. You have to be only 1 or 2 things. That's the way LinkedIn was, gosh, 18 to 20 years ago. I first got on LinkedIn in, I think it was 2006. And at that time, that's what people said. You can only be 1 or 2 things. You can only talk business. You can only talk about one thing so you don't confuse people, because that's all they want to see is what one thing do you do and how good do you do it. The thing is, we're a diverse people. Each one of us is unique. Some of us, yes, they want to niche down. They want to say, this is exactly what I am, and drill down and pinpoint, this is them. And bless them. That's what they want to do, and they're successful at it. Go for it. Don't let somebody else tell you that you can't be that. However, there's a lot of us that we can't drill down. We can't say, this is all I am. And this is what I loved when I really got back into and kind of came back to LinkedIn going into 2022. I used that as, I called it a reinvention year. Going into 2022, I did a full reinvention and I started talking about no more boxes. Because I don't fit the box. I couldn't handle people telling me since childhood, this is who you are, this is what you do, this is what you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to do. Fit that box. Be what we're telling you to do. And I tried. When you try to fit a box that is not you, when you know in your heart, your authentic self, your soul, your core being, that this is who you are, this is your passion, this is why you were created, and you have to box it up and try and hide it and try and be what other people are telling you to be. It doesn't work. This is where a lot of mental health issues will come into play, because when you're being forced to be who and what you're not, to do something that you don't want to do, no matter how good you are at it, if you don't want to do it, it's very hard to keep going at it. So look at that. Look at your own self and what you're doing, and how can you step back, take a look at everything, and figure out what is it you really want to do. That's why I came into 2022. No more boxes. That was my talk. That was my focus. And then going through the year, as I talked with some of my closer friends, I'm seeing the fact that this world, it's like it has to look at us through a box, through the lens of a box, through the lens of a niche, a something. So we're just going to call it a box, a stigma, a label. There's so many different words for it. I just use box because it's the easiest for me. A box can have a label on it. It can be a stigma. It can be anything. So when you are looking at what you're doing and you're stuck in this box, you know you want to get out. And sometimes you even know how to get out. You know what you should do. You know steps that you can take, but you don't do it because you're listening to your fears. You're listening to what other people are telling you. You're believing what people say, who may not even have your best interests in mind. They're only seeing you as they see you or as they want to see you. So being able to step back and say, hold on a minute, I can take this back. I can take control. I can get out of this box, because my passion, my deep focus, it's time for me to take control. And that's when the awareness is ignited. And I like ignite because some people will say spark, and lots of people, it's like, you want to spark, you want to get the spark going. A spark does not guarantee the fire will start. It's like when you do two rocks, flints, and you're trying to start a fire, you get sparks. You can have all kinds of sparks, yet you have to keep going and going until something finally catches. When it ignites, when it just bursts into flame, that's what you want, because the fire is going. It's not as likely to peter out. When you have that awareness, that's what you want. You want to ignite that awareness, because if knowing is half the battle, people, it's a saying that knowing is half the battle. But if it's half the battle, that means awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first step out of the box. You're aware that you can take control. You're aware of what the steps are. You're aware of how you need help. And that's what I'm here for as well, because so often we're stuck in a box that you need somebody from the outside to help you see how to get out, to help you see from a different perspective what that path is, what it means to take the first step. And the important thing about this is it doesn't matter how big the step is. You take the first step. It can be a baby step. It can be a toe. You took the first step, because once you take the first step, the second step's easier, and the third step's easier. I know, I've gone through this. I've gone through it on so many parts of my life, and there are still things that I'm growing, leveling up, and my dear sister is a part of helping me to move beyond some of the boxes I'm still dealing with, because I need that help. I need somebody to be able to help me see, or sometimes I don't need to see it. She just says, do this. And she knows it's going to push me beyond my comfort zone, beyond my comfort boundary. I trust her. And because I trust her, I do it. Sometimes reluctantly, but when it comes to CJ, I can't say no to my sister. That's just how it is. So you take those steps, and once you take the steps, then you're moving beyond boxes. You are no longer stuck in that hole. This is what it means to be yourself, to be your authentic self. And when you move beyond the box, because inside those boxes, do you really feel like you belong? Probably not. Once you move beyond the box, that's when you start finding the places you belong, finding the people you belong with, because those are the ones who love you unconditionally. Those are the ones that you can open up to, and they don't judge you. They accept you for who you are, and they support you. They're there to help. They're not there to put you down, and they won't. If they see something, they know that it's safe, just like for you. If you see something and it's like, well, maybe you could have done this differently, or maybe there's a better way, or if they come to you or you go to them, it's like, I'm thinking this, does this make sense? Because you trust their input, and trust is the foundation of belonging. So that's why when I look at helping people, when I look at organizations, part of my consulting with the organization is, how do you help that organization to create a sense of belonging within the workplace? And now some people might go, you shouldn't have to worry about belonging. It's like, it's a company, you're there to get paid, you just do what they tell you to do, kind of deal. Here's the thing, and the studies are out there. 3 out of 5 of us walk into the workplace wearing a mask, hiding something about ourselves from the organization and from other people. And it can be anything. I've mentioned things. It can be neurodiversity. It can be having a non-regional accent, so you're trying to hide your accent. It can be that you overcame an addiction. There's so many choices. I mean, let's take that accent. One of the examples I will use, let's say a gal from the South ends up working in the North for a company. And this is one of the biggest reasons why, especially as women, tend to cover ourselves. When we are in those spaces, we worry about being stereotyped. If somebody finds out, so this gal from who might have grown up somewhere in the South and has a very distinct Southern accent, and she ends up working somewheres in New England or in Seattle, someplace that's way out of the South. There's that chance that then she will work at trying to hide her accent, not let people hear that, because her concern is if they hear her Southern accent, they'll stereotype her. And I'm not even going to say what the stereotype is, because it can be different for each person, but it's a stereotype. She's not being accepted for herself and the things that she can do and how amazing she is. She's being stereotyped. And suddenly she's being viewed differently. It's not right. So when we have a space of belonging, that means we can go into that space. We can drop the mask. That doesn't mean we're going to tell everybody what was behind the mask. We don't have to. Even when we drop the mask, that doesn't mean people are going to see it. However, it does mean, if you're in a space of belonging, that you have trust, that you feel safe to drop the mask, and you feel safe that if somebody walks up to you and says, I heard this about you, or I noticed this, you have the right to say, whether that's true or not, it's really, it's not relevant, or it's not, they don't need to worry about it. It's none of their business. It's just, we don't need to have a discussion on this. We need to feel safe to be ourselves so that we can then engage. When we're in a workplace and we're wearing a mask, this is the problem with covering. You're covering yourself, you're hiding who you are, and you are no longer engaging beyond the superficial. In organizations, if you've got an organization, think about this. If somebody is worried that some aspect that they have, maybe they're LGBTQ, maybe it has to do with race. They are, technically they are a specific race, but it's not visible. And they're worried about being stereotyped. Anything. So they're hiding it. But if you don't have to hide it, then suddenly you're not wasting energy building a wall. You're not wasting energy fixing a mask to keep it from people seeing through it. You can give the greatest ideas that you have to help the company, because that organization, there may be a big issue going on, and they're trying to figure out how to get past this roadblock. And you've got an idea. If you don't feel like you belong, and that idea in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, this is a great idea, but if I suggest this, then people might realize this piece of me, and I don't want them, I don't want them to treat me differently because of it. If you don't have to worry about that, because now that may have been the answer the company needed to get past that roadblock, but you don't belong. You're too busy thinking about, where can I find a place that I can belong? You want to go find a new job. When you feel like you belong, you can offer the ideas, and then people can work together. It's like, okay, I don't quite see that, but I like where you're going. And what if we add this to it? Maybe that'll work. Now you're collaborating. Now you're engaging beyond the superficial. Now you're being more of a team, more of more of a person who's focused on the company and helping lift the company, because you know that you're being lifted with it. If you don't feel like you belong, why do you lift the company? You're not being lifted with it. You're just seeing more separation. So step back and let's find those ways for organizations to drop the masks, to create that space where people are accepted for who they are. And it doesn't mean that they have to go around telling everybody, because that's not what it means for belonging. Belonging is just you're safe. People will accept you for who you are. If they find out about something, okay, but don't just start throwing out your history and your background. Fit in. Don't try to just fit in, because that's another thing that I see. When we try to fit in, we can't. It doesn't work. When you're trying to fit into a space, you're contorting yourself into a box and hiding important pieces of who you are to fit in, because you're afraid that you'll be treated differently should they find out. You're afraid that they will look at you differently should they find out. Belonging in an organization, and this is why I love to work with companies and help them create that space, because it can be done and it increases productivity. When people are no longer hiding, they're more engaged. They're getting their best ideas out there. They're more productive, which is a much better deal than if they're too busy with their mask and they're hiding. They're not going to be as productive. So you could say, oh, my bottom line looks fine. Yeah, we're losing X number of people all the time, but the bottom line's still good. Well, what if people felt like they belonged, and suddenly you have your retention rate goes up? How much money does that save an organization? Retention goes up. That's going to save money. That goes to the bottom line. That allows you to do more things. Maybe expand the business, increase wages, all of the, and understanding what people want, what really motivates them. Don't think it's always money, because it's not. Each of us is different. We're unique. And what's important to us this year may be different next year. So really get to know people. That's all part of belonging. It's like, oh, they care about me because they're asking. So when I look at the things that I offer, it's like I'm a speaker. And a lot of what I talked about is part of that speaking. I love speaking to women's groups, to organizations. On the stage, it's talking to women to help them move beyond the box, because so many of us are being told who we are, what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act, what somebody else thinks is best for us, when our creators put something inside of us to basically say, this is who I am. And that's what they're telling me is not who I am. I can try it, but it's going to hurt me mentally. It's going to hurt me physically. It doesn't help me grow. It's actually holding me back. I want women to be able to get that, ignite their awareness, to take back control and let their amazing, diverse individual self move beyond that box and start doing what their dreams are, what they know they should be doing. That's the speaker side. And then going into organizations and talking about what it means to be aware, what it means to avoid boxes, what it means to belong in that space, and help the organization grow. Watch the productivity increase, and and look at the numbers and work on increasing retention. I'm an author. I've published 11 books since July of 23. And of that, 8 of those are anthologies. All 8 were international bestsellers, and 7 of them were #1 international bestsellers. 4 of them I did with my dear sister, Dr. Constance Leyland, where we are the team for it. Last year, she published the first, I published the second. She published the third, I published the fourth. The one that's coming up, the one for that we have for speaking, basically the no theme anthology, stories from everywhere. She'll be publishing that one. But we work together. We do all the editing together. So you're working with the same team. We are there to hold our authors' hands through the process. So I'm a publisher. I've self-published my own fantasy duology so far, The Armor of God, Search for the Armor of God, and Battle for the Armor of God. So it's been a lot of fun with the publishing, and working with my dear sister is just the best thing in the world. We have courses that we're putting together. We have both free and paid workshops. And it's all designed to lift others, whether it's in the writing. For her, she's got more of the publicity, the PR, social media. I've got more of the writing, belonging. I even have vision boards. So I can work with individuals or preferably with groups. I can do it online or I can do it in person, which I like the in-person better, because it gives you that chance to really see everybody and really get the energy flowing in that space. So to be able to go and to just, as a consultant, go someplace, work with a group, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, whether it's 100. It's a 6-hour intentional vision board that covers 7 aspects of life, including relationships, jobs, spiritual, travel, finance. It's these aspects of life, and being able to stand up and move from wherever you were stuck. Beyond that point, use that vision board to get to the next level, to manifest what's next in your life. And then there's just, in terms of organizations, as a consultant, it's both the productivity, which is belonging, and even strategy, to be able to talk with senior management. I've been in a number of companies, both public, both for-profit and nonprofit, and be able to help them think about the next steps, ask the questions that will help lead them from wherever they're stuck to, or wherever they're at the moment, to where they want to go. We want to lift everybody. So that's a bit about me, my history, what I've been doing over the past few years, and what it really means, why I have moved beyond boxes and shine, why I have from boxes to butterflies. It's to help others really get that ignition in their life, ignite their awareness that they don't have to be stuck if they feel stuck. You don't have to be in that rut. So it was great having everybody here. And I saw there were a lot from YouTube at various points. So it's been great for the YouTube audience. Sorry I didn't mention you guys earlier. And now I'm gonna wrap it up, and I will see you next week. There's so much to do this year. This year is going to be an amazing and beautiful year. I can't wait to see what's next. So if you missed anything in today's show, please go back, take a look at it, get my background, because it's important. It's important to, like what I was doing today, as I'm going through things that I've done in the past, being able to say, I did this, and yes, it was in the Army, or yes, it was in construction, but those skills transfer into things that I can do today because it's cross-functional, it's leadership, it's working with a diverse group of people, a diverse group of skill sets, whether, and the same goes for the energy efficiency, because I'm working with marketing teams, I'm working with the finance department, with the call center, with my own core team focused on a specific program, dealing with leadership in the organization, cross-functional. We're working with all these people and the clients. That was in energy efficiency. That was in construction. That's in the Army. As an officer, I'm doing all that the same. I'm briefing. When I had the cavalry troop, I was briefing a brigadier general, a brigade commander, about how my unit's doing, where they're at, what status. So you're dealing with all levels of a business, all levels of command, all levels of leadership, and finding those ways to work with everybody for the best project, the best end result, meeting the mission, exceeding the mission. That's what it's all about. And so with that, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week at the same time on Tuesday. Bye.